Yo, yo, my sovereigns, what up? This is Boba Fett,
Bubba Fett, Bubba Fett, Bubba Fett.
uncensored on the internet, with episode 97 of Splinterlands 101. Joining us once again, of course, co-hosts of the show, finest gentleman who ever lived, Matt Clark.
Here's Matt Clark. He's one of the finest gentlemen that ever lived.
I am ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
The man behind the Pouffet Poussey, Geotrix.
And Pouffet Poussey.
Yes, you are looking at him. How can I help you?
And welcoming back for part two, our conversation with Axler Twinblade. Last episode, the time just went so fast, and we reached the end, and we knew there was just so much more that we all wanted to talk about. We've invited him back. So welcome back to the show, Axler.
Well, thanks for being here.
And thanks for getting up at this unfriendly hour of the morning, because here in Australia, we've gone forward 1 hour for daylight savings in October. And now where Axler is in the States, they've just gone backwards 1 hour because they're coming out of their summer. So there's now an additional 2 hours time difference between an already ridiculous time zone. So yeah, thanks for, we appreciate the sacrifice at your end.
Oh, no problem. Getting up at 5 a.m. today.
I didn't realize, because when we first organized the times, of course, you hadn't gone, so it wasn't so bad like last time. But because we had a couple of episodes already booked, we come back on now, and it's like since then that the additional hour has kicked in, and it just didn't occur to me until today. So, yeah, thanks for that.
Oh, no problem. I'll just sleep a little bit at work.
Yeah,
Love it.
good when you can do that. Yeah. So we reached the end last time. It's like, we'd had a look at, you shared some screenshots. I think Baron's Toolbox was the main interest. Even though like I use it myself, there was like you just showed us some stuff, and not just the toolbox, but the actual site, which I had never used before. And some of the features, the animations and so forth on the site were just mind-blowing. So
Well, thanks.
For those who aren't familiar, maybe didn't catch the previous episode, do you want to fill us in on Baron's Toolbox, the website, and what?
Yeah.
Whatever you got on your mind.
Let's see. So Baron's Toolbox, the website was the original part of Baron's Toolbox, and it all started just because when I started the game, along with 6 other employees that I work with, we started a guild, and I didn't like the guild management tools, so I just started making pieces and parts, and then it spawned into the website. Because it was something that was becoming more and more useful for everybody I worked with. So I just started to share it, and then they convinced me, you should just, share this with the public. And so that's where that started. And then it got to a point where I wanted to integrate it more with the game. And so that's where I've now been migrating most of the functionality into the actual Baron's Toolbox browser extension. There's some parts that are still only in the website, such as the animated cards. But even now, I've been looking at some things. There's definitely some pieces and parts I still need to do some updates on for the website. New things have come out that I just haven't put in place, such as with Rebellion packs out, my site doesn't show any amount of your Rebellion pack holdings. So little things like that I got to update. And then as far as the overall tool goes, Nate started up a UI UX channel in Discord. And so I'm trying to slowly feed pieces and parts of what Baron's Toolbox does into the UI UX channel, trying to get Nate to incorporate them. but not as a whole, because I know Baron's Toolbox, I've got so many little pieces that you don't realize are part of my tool that I don't want to confuse everybody with everything at once. So if Nate's being receptive, I'm trying to just slowly feed pieces and parts in. And so that's what I've been doing recently, is trying to advocate for getting some of these parts, even though, I have them in my tool. It would be so much nicer if they were just part of the game UI. So I've been trying to get more and more support and get Nate to make movements in that area. As far as myself goes, I haven't had much time to work on any coding lately. With recent family events, we had a passing in the family, and then just with everything else going on, where I live, we're getting ready for winter, and so we just had a garage built this summer, and all the inside work of the garage is been in kind of my own plate to work on. So all the electric inside the garage doors and garage door openers and all that. So I've been doing a lot of that type of work, and haven't been able to actually get back to writing any code for fun. I do it for work every day, but not for Baron's Toolbox and stuff. So
Sound
I
like a
believe-
handy guy, Axler.
what
A
was
jack
that?
of all you sound like a jack of all trades, man. It's really cool.
I think I grew up, my dad did a lot of the jack of all trades trick. My dad growing up was always building additions on the house and all that kind of stuff. So it definitely has gotten to a point where when I want to do something and you get those quotes and they tell you how
Yeah.
much it's going to be, and you realize half of that is just labor. It's just like, yeah,
I'll do it myself.
yeah, I'll do as much as I can myself.
Same deal with my car at the moment, man. 2600 for a timing chain. I was like, you know what? There's literally a YouTube tutorials, multiple, on how to do it. So I'll buy the parts, I'll get the tools, and I'll do it. That's it.
Yep. Yeah, gotta love YouTube for that. I think YouTube should be renamed the how-to channel, because that's why I go to YouTube. It's like, how do I do this? Oh, that's how I did the automatic garage door openers.
That's
Never
it.
did those before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome. So good.
And whenever I've needed help with something like that, it's never disappointed. I've always found a video to show me to do what it is I need to do. So yeah, it's definitely good for that.
And the only excuse in this economy is laziness. That's it. That's all
Yep.
it is.
And unfortunately, a lot of people get themselves caught up in that. With COVID, everyone's gotten the attitude of like, oh, I can do everything from home, and they don't want to get out and actually do anything anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
it was such an eye opener though during that whole period.
Mm.
It's like how much could be done from home. Like a lot of government departments where you had to go in, get a ticket, and wait for 2 hours for your number to be called. Doctor's appointments over the phone rather than sitting in a waiting room full of sick people. And I don't know about over there, but if you have a doctor's appointment here, if you're late, that you'll be charged a fee for being late. But if you get there on time, you still have to wait 30, 40 minutes for your doctor because he's always running late. So
yeah,
the number
we don't
of things,
get charged the fee.
the number of things suddenly that we could do over the phone, and of
Yeah.
course the whole education system, schooling, and a lot of workplaces thought, well, with the internet and stuff, we don't actually need you here in the office. But now that that's all over, it's like, oh, we want you to all come back now. And everyone's
Come
going,
back.
what? You serious?
It's
Why?
like you can't just give people that freedom and then you just take it, rip it from them. It's like, no, if it worked before during those times, no, that's not how it is, man. No.
Yeah, but it's kind of there's been flow-on effects where Bob goes, you know what, I can do this job from Mexico, and he just takes off.
Yeah.
And that's I think that's why they've been avoiding it all in the first place. I mean, for years I thought, why can't we all just do all this working from home? It would be so easy. And then when we had to, now I'm like, yeah, I could do this from Fiji actually.
Yeah, what we've been experiencing where I work is it's not that you can't work from home. We gave 90% of the population the ability to work from home, but they don't have the I don't know, ability or self motivation to work from home. Meaning, yeah, they're working from home. They put in 8 hours a day, which actually is about 4 maybe, because they really didn't work from home like they said they were going to. And so that's been our experience is I work for a website company. We build websites all day long. Our boss likes us in the office, even though we can do everything from home. During COVID, we ran into a problem where projects weren't getting done because our writers obviously weren't putting in the written, they weren't putting in the hours. It's like they were getting paid for them. And so I think that's where some of the problems come from is while you can do all this from home, a lot of the people we gave that ability to, they're not responsible enough to work from home.
Yeah, abused the privilege of working at home, right?
Yeah.
But it is nice in theory, right? Like it would be way better. Less congestion on the roads. Oh, that was wonderful in Melbourne, especially, and I'm sure other major cities in the world.
Yeah.
Just little. I'm sure you can choose the cons and pros, right? Like,
Yeah, I've found I've got a massive amount of sick leave now because days when I would have gone, I'm feeling too rubbish to go into work, I'm actually not too rubbish to sit on the couch with my laptop on my lap and work from home. So it's like so many times I would have called in sick, and then I'm like, it's all right, I just won't bother calling in sick. It's almost easier to work for the day than it is to book a doctor's appointment, go see him, get a sick certificate, provide proof that I was actually sick. That's just easier to work from the couch.
yeah, and also another.
Sorry, G. I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
steering it back to Baron's toolbox. The because we're going to talk again and we're going to get lost, and then we're going to be what's the go with land and Baron's toolbox? Because I have enough plots that I'm getting really nervous now. I've got less than a week before I'm going to have to do like everything, all of the things. And I'm looking at something like Baron's Toolbox and thinking, what benefits can a landholder expect perhaps to see as far as organising plots, thinking about what goes where, all of that. Have you looked at that at all, or is that just down the road? We'll just see
Good
what
question.
where we're at.
For myself, there's so many moving parts, and because they're not done moving those parts around, I haven't looked too far into it. Other than what I did show last time is, I have my land display that I have with my own set of
freaking
filters
awesome.
across the top. Now I can easily optimize that so that way somebody like yourself, well, I need to do it anyway. Just because it is trying to draw everything on the screen at once, I need to put a limit to only draw the first 500. And that would then give somebody like you the benefit of, even though you have 2,100 plots, you can then just quickly filter and see all of your, water magic plots on one display. Well, unless you have more than 500 of them. And and what that would help you with is just simply what the game interface cannot do is it will not show you all your plots across regions. So if you wanted to see all your occupied plots, you can't. You can see them in this region, or you can see them in that region, but you can't see all of them on one screen. And that's something that's bothered me with their interface is I realized they broke it down that way for region holders that have so many plots, but they broke it for the small person like myself, where initially I had 2 plots in 6 different regions, and I couldn't see all 12 of my plots on one screen. it was impossible for me just to see my plots on one screen. So that's where my card display initially came in, was just because why can't I see 12 cards on one screen? This doesn't make sense. So that would be the biggest thing that I could quickly put in the code, so that way large landholders could see their stuff, and it'd only show you the first 500 until you started selecting filters at the top. But then you would have a much easier go of seeing like all of your epic magic land on one screen. And so that might help you just get a better idea of what you have going on. Now, right now, because it's not released yet, I have no ability to determine if you currently have that land in production, if it's idle, if it need, so those are all the things that I have to wait until land 1.5 actually releases to see what kind of API access they give us as a third-party developer. And then I can start determining what else can I display on those cards to then help you just visualize. Maybe you missed one of your occupied plots that you thought was working, and you got distracted and it's not really doing anything. Now I know you'll be able to see a lot of that in the game interface, but again, they present everything so divided amongst different regions, you have to constantly jump around. And so that's the biggest benefit I think my land display gives, is the original concept and goal was just simply, I want to see my 12 plots across 6 regions on one screen. And that's kind of where I started with. And then I personally always like the visual display over the the spreadsheet displays. And so that's why I've always wanted to render the card. Technically, that's what I bought. I bought the card. And so I want to see the card for, kind of what it is. So I envision that's what you're going to see. My land tool will start being able to delve deeper into, is possibly adding a filter for if it's currently working or not working, and that way you can then have more filtering options for that, but also putting visual indicators on the land plots, so when you are looking at them, you'll have some sort of visual indication along with that. So that's the benefit I see that my display has. And it's hard for me to tell what else it could have benefits over land phase 1.5 until it's actually here. Right now with my land display, if you click on a card, it will take you to the in-game single land display. And technically in the game, that should be the screen that will present you with putting workers on the land and all that kind of stuff. So right now it doesn't. Right now it just goes to a big screen showing the landscape, and I think you only have like the sell or list it for rent or sell it and stuff like that. But I believe that's the screen that their whole land worker interface will be, that screen, once land phase 1.5 comes out. So from my display, you would be able to then click on one card and it would go directly to that one card for you to then manipulate your workers on that piece. So that's how my land display will tie in right now with their system. What else I can do with it, I just got to see what API access they give us, and that really determines where I can go from there.
Yeah, it's like trying to build a jigsaw puzzle when a lot of the pieces are just blank.
Yep,
That's perfect.
Yeah,
Your
I
UX.
see.
No, sorry.
I see definitely what they're trying to do with land, but again, some of that code that they do doesn't become publicly accessible for somebody like me. And so that's where it's like, okay, they can do it. Well, that's great. Let's see what they expose for us third-party developers to be able to do.
That's what I don't understand, right? It's like you have so many willing third-party developers who just want to do it for fun, right? Yeah. And
Yep.
yet they're locking you guys out from the larger production, like the larger code base. And it's like just let them, like you don't even have to pay them. Just let them do what they want to do, you know? Like that's beyond me. Like if I had someone who loved my game, I'd be like, here, open it for you, whoever can, whoever wants to, here you go. Make things more efficient, better, easier,
Yeah.
Yeah. And even Yababat has mentioned, like, oh, in the future he would love it where the code base is decentralized, so people could then host their own version of Splinterlands. It's like, I'm ready today. I have a server. I'll host. Let me.
That was mentioned. Yeah, you mentioned that in the last town hall, and that was really fascinating concept where anyone can challenge and say, "Look, I don't know that you're running the code correctly, so I'm going to challenge." And then, if you're doing it wrong, you lose some of your staked SPS. But all of that is like, it's a long way down the road. But that's mind blowing.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's like
Just-
I don't want to change their game mechanics at the core level. I just want to basically be able to reskin and reorganize their pages and their displays. And this is where Nate and I jokingly say he doesn't like me, but we
Clash.
don't see eye to eye. And he does have a lot of respect for what I do with Baron's Toolbox. He definitely gives me kudos where he can. But when I'm asking for things that he just doesn't agree with, it's like, no, not happening.
Yeah. No, I'm excited at the possibilities just with that aspect of the UX, even just the UI in general. And I know sometimes when I'm skimming through the promotional channels and I see someone's posted their blog and it's like, oh, they're still using like Hive. Have they not seen Peak D? You know, it's like there's so much more you can do on Peak D than you can on the original Hive user interface. And this is because third-party dApps come along. They recognize, like yourself, they recognize a need. Thought no one's doing it. I can do it. I'm just going to do it. And I would say 80% of people probably use Peak D, but there's still 20% on Hive. But yeah, when I see a post in the promotions channel, it's like a Hive address. I think, what, really? You're still using that?
And actually, when I first got into the game, for some reason, I stumbled across Splinter Talk before I stumbled across Peak D. I can't remember how that was. So originally, I had looked at a lot of stuff on Splinter Talk, and then when I came across Peak D, it was a little bit confusing for me at first, as to realizing, oh, it's actually the same post in a sense.
Yeah. Jagged in our server, he uses, or he used to, I don't know if he still does, he used to use Splinter Talk a lot. And I even though I use Peak D, I still get SPT payouts on my posts. So in my Hive engine, I get a lot of SPT. So I'm earning the SPT tokens even though I'm posting on Peak D.
Yep.
But yeah, just everyone thinks differently. And like Matt mentioned last time you were on, we have a large international audience where they might not speak English at all, or if they do, their English is lesser of a quality than their native language. And your layout with all the graphics, icons, that's an international language. It doesn't matter what language you speak. You look at it, that's legendary, that's epic. You know, that kind of thing is just amazing.
Less words,
Yeah.
more pictures.
Yeah, and I don't know. There's so much about just the visual aspect that I think gets lost, even on, especially on sites like Peak Monsters and all that. They're awesome if you want to dig into that, the ROI and all this kind of stuff. but to just visualize what you have at a nice visual display, that's something that those sites really lose very quickly. And for a new player, I think that makes those sites very daunting, because even Peak Monster's visual display of their cards, there's still a lot of other like little Excel data all around and next to, and you click on something and more rows show. It's like that becomes very daunting to a new player in the space. And that's why I try to stick with just the visual and presenting as best as I can the same information. I just try not to get into all the tokenomics with what I do.
Yeah.
I could. It's just a lot more complexity, and that would definitely be a far more time consuming. Because if I start toying around with actually handling people's coin transactions, I need to be a lot more concerned with how I'm doing that, making sure it's robust. And it's like, so I like the stress-free aspect of, you know what? I'll leave that to them.
Yeah, yeah, and sensible too, because like since you start getting into that, nothing's going to upset someone more than a lost transaction or not being able to follow transactions. Like, yeah, don't mess with people's money. So if you don't need to get into that, that's a good, a safe, sound move, I think.
So yeah, I think at the end of the last show, I know you're talking about the visual aspect of the land display, but at the end of the last show, I never even really got to mention. Now I haven't worked on it in a while, but a possible game idea that I was pursuing using the Splinterlands assets, and I have a little bit of a visual of just the starting point I was starting with. I don't know if I got a chance to show that or not.
No, you didn't. No, the
So
screen is all
if you want,
yours.
I can go ahead and
Oh yeah.
share.
No, don't drop gorgeous visual alpha in our podcast. How dare you?
Let's see. I think that's the screen I need to show. Okay. So you can see the land display right now, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so this was just a starting point of a game concept. The name I have right now is just Defender of the Realms. I just needed a domain name for it. I really don't know what I would call it. Right now, I have like alpha and beta users. So here you can see when you log in, what I'm actually looking at here is I load all of your Splinterlands card assets. That's what you see down here. If you own the card, it's unlocked. If you don't own the card, it will be in a locked state. And let me expand this just to make it a little bit more visual. And I'll hide all the locked cards. So this is just all the cards I own in Splinterlands right now. And by doing this display, I learned there are too many cards for me to show everything all at once, like I'm doing here. So this, in this concept, these would be like troops or units for battling. And just like with the game, the difference is I'm looking at doing is their leveling system will be 100% separate from Splinterlands. But the ability to use the card, you have to own the Splinterlands asset to unlock that card. Now, I've toyed around with the idea of if you want to level like a rare up to a level 2, you have to own a rare level 2. I toyed around with that, and I'm not sure I want to go down that path because that really will put a lot more roadblocks on some like newer people picking up and trying to run with it. So I think just owning one BCX or something like that just to get the unlock, encourages people to at least own the asset, so they're looking at Splinterlands enough that I shouldn't have to force them. If they want to play Splinterlands, they'll do that themselves. So all of these would be like troops, and then the concept from here is, for most games you have a season, and so for a season I was thinking making use of all Splinterlands assets here. So a season would be randomly picking a region for that person and having the goal of them having to win battles on every plot and every tract in that region. Basically seeing how far they could get through the 1,000 plots in whatever season length that is. So let's say if the season length was 30 days, can they get through all 1,000 plots in that 30-day time? So right now I just randomly pick a region and a track and a plot to start on. So this is like region 64, track 5, plot 49. So this is kind of like you've already won some battles and you've got to this point. So the next ones are locked until you win the one before it. Now, the style of battle is hard to explain. Have you guys ever... This is as far as I've got as far as the visual. I don't have any of the actual battle aspects in play yet. Have you guys ever seen the Stream Raiders game on the internet for Twitch?
No.
Okay. In general, Stream Raiders, or the battling system would be, Stream Raiders is for people who stream on the internet. You have somebody who will host the battle, and then other people can join that battle by putting troops onto a map every 5 minutes. And usually there's like a 30-minute workup cycle. So that means each individual that joins the battle could possibly put 5 troops on the map. And then the person that's hosting it is where the actual battle plays out. And so what I'm envisioning is quite literally the old school 2-dimensional maps, like we're talking old not Ultima Online, but Ultima 1, 2, and 3 for people that are more old school, the top-down 2-dimensional map. These would be the troop icons that you would put on the map, would be these troops. So you would then select and place on the map along with other people, and then the game would then also populate the map with basically enemy troops. And at that point, it does become an auto battler, where once the battle starts, it will battle and play out itself. But each card, each troop, initially it's just going to be kind of they're all the same, because just getting a working prototype where you see each of your troops going around, going towards the enemy and doing damage and all that kind of stuff, that's the initial thing. But over time, I want to look at each of the abilities that a card has and see if you could incorporate that into the battle mechanics. In other words, initially all the cards would move at the same speed, but then change it and take into account the card's speed stat based on its level. And that would be how fast it will move on the map in accordance with the other troops. And then start doing the same thing with, okay, its armor. Now take into account its health. Now, once you get those down, now you can start looking at the special abilities like camouflage. How would camouflage work in this mechanic? How would this work in that mechanic? And so over time, it'd be impossible to get all the abilities working day one. It'd be more so like over time, pick one ability, add that in, pick the next ability, add that one in. Some abilities just wouldn't work out well to have as a ability in the game. There's some, like camouflage would have to have some other meaning, because it can't be the only troop left on the map to be attacked when there's like 85 possible troops on the map. Some of those mechanics won't work out right. So the idea with starting the battle, that two-dimensional map would be randomly generated based on the land's type. So this is a badland. So, I'm thinking somehow it would match the fact that it's a badlands, and then it would take into effect if it's a common, rare, epic, or legendary. That would determine possibly, how many bad guys are on that map. If it's natural or magic, what does that do to affect the map? And then, just like Splinterlands, the idea would be to randomize the rule sets going into each one of these battles. Obviously, there's so many cards to play. If you're in the Badlands, we could have that territory be something like, water monsters you can't use on that land. It's just not going to work out. And so, as you're progressing through your different types of maps, you've got calderas. So obviously that would be great to have fire on. So maybe, that you lock these down and you start having this randomness. But then when you get into tundra, so as somebody's progressing through there, they might have a bunch of maps where they're using like all fire decks. And then all of a sudden, they're not. And so this is where, the card diversity comes in. And then when you get to like, I didn't get lucky enough to have a castle or a keep show up in here, but obviously then if you have a castle or a keep, you make those fights really, really difficult to pass without getting other people to join you. Now, the multiplayer aspect would be, if I wanted to play the game, I would come in here and I would start a battle. This would just be me and my troops, and just like anybody else, I'll get to put one troop on the battle screen every 5 minutes. And then what would happen is I would create a game, a hosted game that would show up over here in the top right that you can see says join a game. My game would show up here, so anyone else who wants to play, they could come in here and join my game. And then they would be presented with my map and, the countdown clock and all that, so that they could put troops on my map. And so right now, that's the overall concept of what I'm looking at. It would play out a lot like Stream Raiders does currently, but it could literally use all aspects of Splinterlands, all assets included. You could put things in there. So if you wanted to use bloodstones and or potions, you could do something where those could have an effect in the game. When they release item and spell cards, this would be another thing that, let you then use your item and spell cards to, apply additional mechanics into the battle screen as well. So in this style, what I'm looking at really trying to do is bring in more of the social aspect of a semi-social, semi-multiplayer game. So people can join it. Now, the person hosting it is where the battle is going to take place. So the problem I would have with showing the battle live to everybody in the game at one time, or hosting a battle, is just keeping all that real-time traffic accurate amongst everybody who could possibly join the one game. So that's where I was leaning towards just going down the path of what Stream Raiders does, and that would just be the person who started the battle is the one where the battle would take place. Now, when the rewards came out, if you had joined the game but you ended up not being able to see the actual battle, you would still get the rewards at the end of that battle based on that. Now I'm going to jump over real quick just to kind of, since you guys haven't seen Stream Raiders, they do the 8-bit graphics and all that. The graphic style I would use is the quality of the card graphics down here is exactly what you would see as far as the unit would go on the playable map. So I'm just going to jump over here real quick just to show. So this is Stream Raiders. And so here where it says choose a streamer, this is the concept where I would start a battle and it would show up over here as you could then join my game. So this would be the same thing as what they call choosing a streamer, is you're just joining their game. So you'd come over here and join a game. And see, and here, this guy's already going, so you'd have to go watch that on Twitch. So that's not, his game has ended. Let's select this one here. Okay, so here's where you could then place a unit. So this is where you see the map. So they do the 8-bit graphics and all this. And here, these are the troops at the bottom for Stream Raiders versus... That's what we're showing here. These, our troops would be all of our cards. And then in this game, they do random maps, but they have selected areas where you can put your units. And so you would just take, and you'd place your unit in one of the blue areas that they let. So now you can see how many people have joined this map or this game, how many troops they've put on the map. But when the fight actually takes place, you have to go watch it on the person streaming on Twitch. Basically, that's how you would actually visualize the actual fight taking place. And I'm leaning towards doing that same style only because I wouldn't know how to do all the multiplayer communication to do all this real time with everybody watching and playing and seeing it all at the same time. If there's a programmer out there that knows how to do that, well, then that opens the door that way. But then at the end of the fight, everybody kind of has a ranking of how many kills they got in, how many this, that, and the other that happened, and then it hands out rewards. Now, all this is not a crypto game, so this is just in-game whatever stuff. And then what they do is their little store for the coins they give out. Basically, it's a lot of buying skins for their units and pieces and parts to get different style units or leveling up your units. I haven't thought about all those aspects yet. Obviously, I'd want to tie it into some sort of crypto coin. But I haven't really gone down thinking about the whole economy aspect yet. So this is where I've gotten it to, and I just haven't had time to get back to it to actually get kind of when you hit start battle right now, there's some code in the background that's running, but there's no visual display that happens from there. And so the next steps I got to work on are getting it so when you start a battle, your game shows up here so that other people will see it and be able to click join so that they could then see the same map so they can place troops. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. And the overall concept that I'm going for is all based off of literally all the assets in Splinterlands and trying to put them to use in a game style that feels more social. Because with current Splinterlands, it says we're fighting a real person, but honestly, you can't tell. At no point do you really have a feeling you're playing with another real human, other than, oh, somebody accepted my battle. But you don't really get that feeling that you're playing against or with other people. Whereas this one, you would see people starting games, you could join their game, you could be placing troops on their map. And the idea would be, hopefully, it encouraged more people to kind of stream the battle aspects. And so then the people could go watch them on Twitch or wherever. Or again, if it gets to a point where I have a developer that knows how to do this in real time, so everybody can visually watch at the same time outside of Twitch. That's always a possibility as well. So this account here that I logged in with shows all that. I have another account, I believe. Okay, this account, you won't see anything because it says we don't have access. And then I have one other account here that has some cards on it. So in this account, I just have very few, I think, soulbound or reward cards here. So, for a new person that's just starting, they're not going to see nearly all those units to play. But this is something that, unlocking them over time and, all sorts of other game mechanics could come into play over time. But that's the overall concept that I was looking at running with. Initially, I'm just trying to get it to a point where you can start a battle, you can join it, people can put troops on a map and have a very rudimentary battle sequence of, a dead reckoning. Everybody just runs straight towards each other and damage and things get their little attack swings and all that kind of stuff. So that's where I'm trying to get it to, just kind of as a proof of concept. I know there's a lot of people that I've talked to that are interested in supporting an effort that I would be pursuing. So it's a matter, I don't want to pursue investments or anything like that until I have more of a working demo.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for
Fascinating.
sharing, man. I
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it. I mean, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, there's so much there, isn't there? So if say I'm clicking through and I can see there's 7 or 8 people who've all got matches live at the moment. Can I say arrive? I'm Gandalf arriving at the last minute, and I'm riding my white stallion, my sacred unicorn. Could I apply that same sacred unicorn to multiple different battles, or is it monopolized for a period of time after I apply it to put it somewhere on somebody's battlefield?
Definitely, every troop would have a cooldown cycle. So you could, once you place it, there's an X amount of time before you could place it on the map again. And so there is a cooldown cycle that Stream Raiders uses. I definitely would be implementing the same sort of thing. It's hard to say what that cooldown should be. Common cards, it'd be pretty quick, but maybe legendaries, like in Stream Raiders, some of their top units, it takes like 6 hours before you can use it again. So maybe that's something like legendary cards would have that higher cooldown time. But then you get into the economy aspect where you could sell potions for a token that would, eliminate the card's cooldown for a round. So this is where you get into all those other dynamics of trying to build out the economy with some sort of, even if it's just an in-game credit and it's not really a crypto token, it's still that aspect of building those mechanics in there to allow for more enjoyable gameplay for those that want to buy those potions and speed up their cooldowns so they can use that troop again sooner. But yeah, there's so many different layers that you can add once you have that base gameplay in there.
Yeah.
There's so many different little layers you can add to it.
I think the cooperation aspect of it is really novel. So the game so far has been a contest, right? We get together and we have our podcast here and we'll battle against the guest or we'll battle against someone else. Apart from guilds, there's not been any real collaborative, cooperative. So this is, I think, a really welcome idea where you're making friendships, right? Because you think, oh yeah, I'm going to go and help this guy out, help this guy out, help this guy out, and then they return the favor. They see that you're playing and they go, oh well, I'll help him out, and it's rather than this guy again. I always struggle to beat him. It'll be this guy again. He's always helping me out. So it's a different vibe. I once had the idea that what would be great is, I don't know if you played games like Battle Cats or Stick Wars, but the idea is it's PvP. You got a castle at each end, and normally they're mobile games. Your mana ticks over, or your dollars or whatever, and at the bottom of the screen there's different options for units that light up as you make enough. So you can hammer out the commons, or you can wait and let your money jackpot a bit, and then get a rarer or a tougher unit. It's all about sort of controlling the battlefield, the ebb and flow of battle. I'm sure you've seen what I'm talking about, but I know when I put it forward, I think a couple of years ago to Aggie, and said, maybe somebody could build this as a third party thing. I think the problem was that it's so difficult to do things that are live, which is what you're talking about here, where it's just that making sure that everybody's seeing the same thing at the same time becomes really, really difficult to try and do that. So, but I love as a proof of concept, using in-game assets for a different game, cooperating and collaborating instead of competing. There's so much to like here. And the other thing I've been thinking while you've been talking is, if I get there's legendary soulbound rewards that I've got 0 copies of still after all this time, and I can't get them. I can't get them. But even if I get one BCX, right? What am I going to do with that? Right. What good does that do me? Until I've got a few and I can get a level 2, level 3, it's probably not going to. I'm not going to find it at diamond level. I'm not going to play many 1 BCX legendary cards. But if I'm playing this, right, and then I get that new legendary, and I'm like, yes, okay, cool. I can do this over here. I can actually use this card now. I feel like this really has legs.
Oh, thanks. It's a concept. I looked at Stream Raiders and played it this was like 2 years ago when I first started streaming, and I like the aspect because the way they incorporate the game is, while you're streaming a different game, let's say you're streaming Fortnite, Stream Raiders has this little screen, or a little piece on your screen that shows the battle has 20 minutes before it's going to start. And so people can go to that person's battle, add troops to it, and while they're playing Fortnite, that timer ticks down, and then when it's ready to go, the streamer gets notified on his screen that, okay, we're ready to fight. Everybody's got their troops in place, and then they can bring up the game on their stream, and then they stream the battle sequence, and then when that's done, they can distribute the rewards, and then they go back to playing their game, and they kick off another round of Stream Raiders for people. So viewers, while they're watching the stream, they're also being able to kind of play this side game with the streamer. So there's those social aspects that can come into play as well. Is if you're just sitting there watching streamers streaming Splinterlands, they could also have this mini game going that people could then join into, and literally you could be doing both at the same time.
Yeah, like Matt says, there's a lot to like.
I think it's just more so about the passion that you show, man. Like, you're creating games, you're creating like third-party apps on top of the Splinterlands ecosystem. Look, the more that is to come of this from like whoever, the better, right? Like, it's just awesome. It's cool to see. I mean, just like new takes on the game and how it could go, which is the start of the whole decentralization thing. And yeah, I think that's very promising.
And the concept of working through a region, over the course of a season too, really, it pulls it down into a specific time and place. And I think if you know that somebody's pushing really hard, you're going to be looking to log in wherever you can and make sure that all of your cards that aren't currently on cooldown are being applied to help your mate out while he's trying to forge his way through the region. Believing that he'll do the same for you when it's when your time comes. So yeah, there's a real element of collaboration here, and I could see some guilds having fun with it. where all the guild members are doing a collective thing where they're all looking after each other. Yeah, lots to like.
And it's just going to get better. That's it.
And yeah, and everything I'm looking at is it's still a very simplistic game, but it's a completely different way of using all the assets, and every single asset can be applied to it over time. Given enough time, you could have, I think there's like 40 different abilities on all the different cards. You could have over time all of those being incorporated somehow into the battle sequence. Day one, none of them. Day two, you introduce speed, and then you add these over time. So, the game will have this constant progression that it could go through. And again, every map can have random rule sets that could go with it. I was just saying randomize what splinters you can use based on the land type. Well, you could also introduce the other rule types of like, hey, only legendaries, or hey, only for small guys only on this map, or you could introduce all of those aspects if you really got into it.
Using existing abilities, but changing it to better match the game that you're trying to create and how it could implement into that style of game. Yeah, I like it.
And I was even looking at, because all the land is owned, like here, this one's owned by Hive Engine. I was even looking at it. So if you do a battle on this map and you defeat it, sending that, the in-game token that this game would run, issuing some of that rewards to the owner of that land.
Wow. Okay.
Just a fraction, even if it was like just one token. And that token was only like worth 1 DEC. It's just the point of, it's like they're not even doing anything and they're getting issued tokens because other people are playing on the land that they own.
That is so cool.
And if people are trying to progress through a region, then you've got a plot in there, then you're getting something.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's not just that, right? So you make this game as a proof of concept and people start playing it, and you fire up the creative juices in other people, and then they start saying, well, actually I've always thought maybe, and then they do a different game. And so a landholder will get not just, a little share, a reward from when each individual person passes by their, has their turn at their plot, but also whatever different games get built, you're getting all of those tokens as well. So I can see real Hive Engine starting to fill up with all these just random different tokens. But that's a good way to get the attention of the big guys. If you got somebody who has a region, and they're getting quite a lot, I got $5 worth of Tuft token. What's Tuft token? And then right, you've got my attention now, and I'm going to investigate your project and see what's happening. So it's about sort of turning the place into a black hole where all that creativity sort of gets pulled in and attracts more. So, and this is a great step.
And I like how you're using all assets, right? Like you said, all assets, right? Like to bring attention to those assets. And look, like what you're doing, it's evident, I know it's early stages, not really much, but it can get there, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely early stages, and the whole visual display of it here right now, is, all of it could be thrown to the wind if I could, get to a point where I could actually get some UI UX designer to actually, make it a more cohesive fit. Right now I'm quite literally just doing, basic framing of different areas of the screen. And, this land display here, that obviously was just taken from, Baron's toolbox. Okay, let's just throw that in there real quick. So all of this could be morphed to be more meaningful to individual players. Now, this is the units are the only ones where I actually was looking at how could I display the units, and I came up with using all the lore pictures from the game versus the card art.
I was wondering
Um,
where they came from because some of these are pretty amazing.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
yeah.
looks way better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you start looking at the lore pictures, you realize just how much the card art hides of some of these characters. And so once I brought in the lore art instead, I really liked how it was looking. And so, yeah, I definitely am leaning towards this would be the style of your troops that you'd be putting on your maps. And I don't care that they're not animated. I used to play these old school games where it was just this 2D tile map.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of older players that understand and came from those games where they don't need all of the guys to be truly animated 100% and all that to understand what the game actually is.
The original Civilization, Sid Meier's Civilization, the first one that came out on floppy disk, it was just tiles that moved across a grid map. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the concept. My free time is finally starting to free up again. So I'm hoping to be able to get back to doing some updates to Baron's Toolbox, some just minor quality of life things I need to get in there and add in, and then get back to expanding on this concept and trying to get it to that next stage. But I'm excited to see a working demo of this. My biggest fear is I think the demand potentially could outweigh the amount of time I have to produce
Mhm.
all the pieces of it.
Yeah,
And so
100%.
that's where if it got to that point, it might be something where, okay, really need to seek investors so we can hire people to finish the concept, or something along that line. So, but yeah, cart
Like,
before the horse. First, you gotta get that working demo going.
well, you seem like a busy bee, so I'm sure you come around to it at some point.
Winter's coming. What else do I have to do? Huddle
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
house and spend all my free time on a computer. There you go.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive, to be honest, man. Like, you work and you got Baron Toolbox, but now you created a game. I don't know. It's pretty cool to me, anyway.
Yeah, agreed.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
And I've heard that the Michigan winters do get quite brutal. So if you're boarded up against the elements, it's like your whole
Yep.
day can just revolve around this.
It's where you want to be, really.
Yep. No, our winters can get pretty brutal. Our last winter was actually pretty mild, but there's days where we'll get, over a foot of snow. At any one time, I'd say the most snow we'll have on the ground, maybe 2 feet, at any one time. But usually it's a lot less than that because, we'll get some will melt, we'll get some. So on average, we'll probably have about a foot of snow on the ground throughout winter.
Still a
But
fair bit.
this last winter, it was like really light. I mean, we only had maybe 3 inches of snow on the ground. We would get dumped on like a foot and a half, and then it would all melt. We'd see grass again and get a little, it was like really strange. So it's hard to tell what we're going to get.
Weather has been strange everywhere. It's supposed to be like near summer, and we just got a torrential rain pour. Like in Melbourne, Bob can
We had
speak of it.
hailstorm
Yeah.
a few days ago. Yeah, yeah. But Melbourne's always been unpredictable. I mean, when you
Oh,
look at us on the map,
weird.
we're right on the corner, if you like, the southeast corner, where 3 oceans converge together.
Mm.
And I can tell you from my time in the Navy, that particular patch of water, nothing smaller than a destroyer will make that trip. So if you imagine like this is a map of Australia, to go from east to west across the bottom, if you're on something smaller than a destroyer, you've got to go all the way around the top.
Wow.
The water there is so bad.
I
And
didn't realize you were also in Navy.
yeah,
I was in the U.S. Navy.
yes. And I was gonna like when you mentioned that last time, but we never got back around to it again. We just like the pace was going so fast. I thought I don't want to like throw us back 20 minutes on something random. Yeah. Yeah, I did 9 years and I was a Sparky. I was a weapons technician, so I used to work on guided missile systems, radars, turrets,
Nice.
torpedo tubes, any part of the weapons system. And the ships, my specialization was ASW, anti-submarine warfare, so mostly on those types of ships.
Okay. I was on an aircraft carrier and I did all aviation electronics. I worked on all the black boxes out of jets and helicopters.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mission computers, GPS, navigation, UHF, VHF radios, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And
I find it so strange, man. Like we've spoken to so many who have like been in the Navy, been in the military on Splinterlands.
yeah,
It's like,
actually,
what?
the number of guests we have of ex-military. Matt was in the army as well.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah, the numbers. But we've on the subject of technology, and I've mentioned this to a couple of people in the past. So I was in the Navy during the 80s. So I essentially spent all of the 80s. I was in the Navy, and we had something at the time that was called ship to shore communication. That's what it was called, ship to shore. Pretty much broadband internet. And when did we get broadband internet here in the public domain? So, like, you know, when you look at what we've got nowadays, you got to wonder what does the military have now that we just have no idea about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a lot of what our military had, but I was in the Navy back in the 90s. And yeah, it was pretty astounding what our military had in the 90s. It's baffling to think about where they're at today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We had Arshad on the show a couple of weeks ago, and where he works for some branch of the military, like designing ships, frigates, I think he mentioned mostly. But yeah, the number of guests that have some military backgrounds is amazing as a random selection of a demographic.
I don't know that that's random. I think maybe people who've been up close and personal with some of the wastefulness of the government are more likely to perhaps engage with things like crypto, where it's like maybe we should not let these people be in charge of printing the money that we use anymore. So it kind of makes sense.
100% alternative views.
Yeah, I think the military does just fine. It's when you get into the politician branches of government where they go, oh, we'll print more money. Oh, we'll print more.
Yeah. And, you know, like we give, you can't even say like we give, but you know, we give the government all this power, and then like what control do we have beyond that, you know? It's like I'm a big fan of decentralization and minimalization of government. Actually, I'll share a little picture here of how the government works. You've probably seen this one before.
Yeah.
Back one.
Yeah.
That is, I haven't seen that. That's wild.
Yeah,
That's
great.
exactly how government works. Yeah.
Yeah, fires here, fucking eggshells in the pan, and
Yeah, it's all there. Like everything.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
but it's not doing what it's intended to do.
Yeah.
Too
So
funny.
is it broken is it broken or is it actually working perfectly? And we're ignorant of what they're supposed to be doing.
Oh, I love that, man. Oh. All right. Let's bring it back to Splinterlands for a little bit.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of changes, and I know we only got 7 minutes to touch upon it.
Hmm.
Who wants to start? Like, has anyone got any juicy stuff they really want to talk about in regards to it?
Well, why don't you start, Gio, with something you shared for me today? What you're now doing with ranked?
Oh yeah, look, I'm just in diamonds because through the charity of Kiz and Matt Clark, I can play in Diamond 1 and still have like that over 10 multiplier. So I was like, why be in gold when I could just like use my cards that are mostly maxed, not all, just some, to play in Diamond. So I was like, I'm gonna do it. So yeah, I did it, and my first set of focus chest rewards were just SPS and potions.
Three SPS in total.
Here's a thank you for moving up, right?
Yeah, so we were playing in Champ before or just finishing the end of like last day or two end of season in Champ, and with the SPS staking, we've been playing in gold, but yeah, Gio's gone back into diamond today, and his first diamond chest. I actually showed I did better in my bronze account than he got in his diamond chests.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I typically play in diamond. I was able to get into champ, but when they introduced staking, my multiplier is too low to make it worthwhile. So
Yep.
I've just been sticking to diamond, and when I was playing in modern, I could get into champ 3, on a regular season basis, but not much higher than champ 3 because I only have Chaos Legion maxed out. I don't have the other sets. And so just being able to open the door and be able to get there was nice. And then with the staking requirements and then recently lack of time, I've just been letting the bot play in wild. And I'm surprised because the bot with only Chaos Legion cards, it's a max set.
Yeah.
Is able to play at top of Diamond 1 the whole season. And it's just like, okay, I realize I'm not getting as much SPS and all that. I've always been for the cards. I want the cards. It's
the
like
soul bounce.
So as long as I'm getting cards, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Same thought, same line of thinking right here.
Yeah, I've been buying energy on my bronze accounts because it's so cheap to do.
Why
but not on silver or gold. It's just I'm too much of a tight ass for that. But I don't mind. Like it's like 1 DC in energy. It's like 50 energy to completely renew and play in bronze. And yeah, this thing I'm like essentially farming soulbound reward cards.
Yeah,
this is my way of looking at it. Yeah,
they're so good.
Energy and diamond is like 150 deck a pop, and it's just like, yeah, that's not worth it.
no,
because I know the focus chest is not going to pay out that much.
Yeah, actually, speaking of broken RNG, have any? I know Matt does, but have you tried out Terracore at all, Axela?
I have not. I recently branched over and I've been playing some Big Time, which is a Web 2, Web 3 hybrid game.
Interesting.
You can play it for free. Well, it's closed beta right now. You got to get a code from somebody. I got 3 codes. Anybody playing, they give codes to give out to other people right now.
Okay.
So I've got 3 codes I can give out, but you can play it for free, 100%. And then they have the whole Web3 side that if you want to start trying to earn stuff, you then have to start buying some of their NFTs, and it goes into their whole tokenomic rabbit hole from there. But I went over there. Go ahead.
What ecosystem and what type of game?
It is kind of like a 3D dungeon crawler, kind of like I don't want to say Diablo. It's not a 3/4 down view, but it's more of your character is more of a Fortnite view where your camera is behind your character running around.
FPS sort of stuff.
Yep.
Just
And
third person.
yeah. And then you run around and you find different dungeons, and you can group up to 6 to run dungeons, or you can try to find them based on your level and just run them solo as well. But you can do all of that absolutely free to play. So that's the web 2 side of it. And then their crypto side is basically all skins. So you can craft skins for your armor, your weapon, and all that. And that becomes the crypto side, where you can craft skins, sell those skins for the currencies. They have a token called Big Time. I think it's an ERC20 token. And I don't even have any of those tokens yet. They've got other premium tokens in the game. I don't know how all those work yet. I'm playing it for fun, but I did buy some NFTs so I can start to earn in it as well. But I'm not expecting anything from it. It was just I needed something to occupy my brain.
Yeah. And sometimes you just need that. Yeah. And we are actually out of time. If for this episode, we have 1 minute left on the clock before Zoom cuts us off. So before we go, just want to quickly share with you my all-time record of broken RNG. It doesn't get any worse than that. So for the quest, 99% success rate, I rolled 99.91 and I still failed. That's got to be some type of record. So thanks for joining us on episode 97. Axela's contact details, his Discord, website, all the links will be below in the blog. So thanks for joining us. Axela, thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
You guys
Not enough
next
time.
week on 98.
Not enough time. Take care.
So true. So true.
Take care.
Peace out.
Peace.